There's nothing that creates faster cash than wholesaling.
It's quick.
You get a deal, it closes in 2 weeks, and you got 20 grand. Like,
Literally.
dude, what other thing can you do where you make that much money that fast than wholesaling?
I haven't found one. And the rips are sizable.
I have a philosophy that the value of anything is only equivalent to the sacrifice you make to get it. So if it's valuable to you, you'll make the sacrifice.
You will.
I'm just the guy that fell down and got back up over and over again. That's it.
Yep. You didn't give up.
I just didn't give up. I see people come and go in this industry and it's the 3 feet from gold, right? They're so close and they quit.
Yeah. So you did your very first wholesale deal 20 years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago in Detroit, Michigan.
Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah. I was 27 years old and working in underground construction, so utility work.
Okay.
So it was outside in the elements. It was dirty. It was down in a hole. Basically, worked a shovel.
Yeah.
But I had this burning desire, and I had the work ethic. I just didn't have the blueprint.
Right.
Like I didn't grow up around entrepreneurship, money, business. No one taught me any of those principles. So I was like looking, and I knew I wasn't providing for my family the way they deserved. Mm-hmm. So I got a hold of this like 20-page ebook on wholesaling, but I didn't know what wholesaling was. So I'm just trying to find something like, oh, man, how do you get started? Zero down, like, because I had no money.
Right.
And then I heard about this wholesaling. I got this little ebook by Steve Cook was his name. He's still around. I'm friends with him today. And I read through this and I'm like, this doesn't sound that hard. And it sounds like it's just hustle. And I know how to hustle. I know how to work hard.
Yeah,
I got that.
You're doing it right now.
I'm already working. I work hard every day with a shovel,
Right.
It was like mornings, lunch, evenings, weekends, nights. I started driving for dollars. Got in my truck, drove around. That was how I got started. And I part-timed it for about a year. My goal was if I can replace my annual income wholesaling part-time, then I'll quit and do it full-time. And it was only like $25,000. Like,
especially today, you can do this as a side hustle until you replace your main hustle.
I mean, it's not easy because you got to do your 9 to 5 and then your 6 to midnight.
Right.
Most people aren't willing to do that.
Right.
I was.
Yes.
So I did the second job side hustle.
Yep.
I made the sacrifice. I told my family I had 2 kids and one on the way. And I said, guys, I've got to figure something out because I can't take care of you with the income I have right now. Told this to my wife, and I said, I'm going to figure this out. There was no plan B.
Right.
I didn't have a plan B. It was like when I do it, not if I do it. I think that's a big deciding factor for a lot of people. If you come into this with a plan B,
it ain't going to work.
You'll quit.
Yep.
Yeah, and you go back to the other thing. You'll go to the plan B. Like I burnt the ships in the harbor, went all in.
Yep.
And then here's what's funny, Eric, is so I did that for about a year, saved up $25,000 in like wholesale income, quit the job, went full time. My first month full time, I did 5 contracts for $52,000.
Jesus.
And that was more money than I'd seen in my
life.
ever.
That's life-changing
and
money.
I'd never look back.
Right.
I never looked back from that moment on. This is funny too. My very first deal, I did not know how to fill out the paperwork. There was a for sale by owner sign in the window of this vacant house. And I could tell it had been there forever because I could barely make out the number. It was faded in the sun.
Got it.
It was in the window. It wasn't even in the yard. So I get up there. I'm real close. I think this is the number. I call the guy, out-of-state owner, owned it forever, not even trying, not care. So I get the contract for like $12,000. This is Detroit, remember? Okay, so I get the deal. And then I'm like, okay, how do I find a buyer? How do I find a buyer? Well, at the time, there was no data, none of this stuff we have today.
You couldn't skip trace the phone number.
Yeah, there was none of that stuff back then. The only thing that there was the MLS.
Okay.
So I went and got my license so I could have the MLS. Okay. So that was one thing I did because I figured out real early on, how do I comp? I couldn't figure out anything without the MLS. So I got my license, got the MLS. Well, I went on the MLS and they have a search feature in there where you can decide on the financing. So I put cash as a filter and sold transactions. And then I'm looking through and I drew a circle around my deal. I still do this method today, actually. What are all the cash transactions in this neighborhood in the past 6 months or so?
Yep.
And I saw this guy named Ren, and he was Cambodian, and he had bought like 8 deals or something in the past 6 months. Because I'm looking at who the buyer was on public record.
Yep.
Now, no skip tracing, nothing. So I thought to myself, okay, how do I find this guy? I'm going to go knock the doors on the homes he bought. Now, this is all buy and hold. He's a slumlord, right?
Right.
Detroit.
Yeah.
So I knocked the door. One of the doors, a tenant answers and I said, I'm looking for Ren. And they said, that's my landlord. I said, do you have his number? He's like, yeah. And he gives me his number. So right then and there, I call the guy. I said, I got this property over here. He says, I'll meet you there in 5 minutes. So I go over there. He meets me there. And I got my assignment with me. Never filled one of these out, right? He walks it for 5 minutes and he's like, what do you want? I tell him a number. He beats me up and ends up being like $18,000 or whatever. I think it was like a $6,000 assignment.
Yeah.
Right? And then I pull out the thing and I'm looking at it and he's looking at it and it says assignor and assignee. I'm like, oh crap.
What do I do?
Which one am I?
Which one am I?
I had no idea. And so I'm like sweating and I'm looking at it. I'm like, I'm going to look like such an idiot to this guy. Finally, he figures out he doesn't know what he's doing. So he says to me, this is you, this is me. Let me help you fill this out.
He helped you.
He helped me fill out the assignment, right? So we fill it out, and then and he ended up buying that deal. And I'll never forget, Eric, I got in my little pickup truck after the appointment. He signs it, and I'm just like fist pumping. And I'm literally like punching the ceiling like, I did it. It could have been $1 million. And that high 20 years ago, I've been chasing that ever since. That high of that first deal,
You're
that
a deal
dopamine
junkie.
rush. Oh, yeah. I'm a crack addict. From that moment on, I was a crack addict for deals. And it just changed my life forever.
He didn't know how to take a deal all the way to the finish line, but he worried about the problem in front of him and not the problem he didn't have. I guarantee you drive enough neighborhoods, you're going to see a for sale by owner in a window somewhere. There's another one of those signs out there waiting for somebody.
But you bring up a good point, Eric. You know, in the education, I've been in the education a long time too now. And here's the problem that a lot of people have is they're worrying about step 3 before step 1.
Yes.
And they tell themselves, I have to know everything before I can do anything. And it's just not true.
It's not.
If you really just worry about the next thing, that means you got to walk in the dark a little bit because you don't know what's coming up. But if you just worry about the next thing, do that, then the next thing, do that, then that's how you can start to really learn and do the business. Because you'll learn as you go.
Let's say there's 10 steps, right? All the way from start to finish. If you're worrying about all 10 of them, you're not going to do anything. You're really not. For a lot of people, it's a big mountain to climb.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know if I can do
Well,
this.
think about it. People are like, if I get a deal, I don't have a buyer. Well,
you don't have a deal.
Get a deal.
Yeah. Then worry about that.
In fact, I've never not had a deal and not found a buyer.
Right.
If it was a deal. Now, I've had it where it wasn't a deal and I couldn't find a buyer. But if it's a deal, you'll find a buyer.
Yep.
Just like money. I've never not gotten the money for a deal. If it's a deal, I'll get the money.
A good deal attracts a lot of people.
Thing. The buyer, the money,
thing.
the thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So like, honestly, just go work on getting a good deal and you'll figure out the rest as you go.
Yes. I love that. Jerry, how in the last 20 years, looking back, because you've seen this industry through the eyes where most people don't get to see where you started and where it is today.
So technology has definitely morphed this industry tremendously. You know, what's happened in the years is when I first started, wholesaling was like an afterthought. It was like a plan B.
It wasn't an industry.
It wasn't an industry when I started. Thanks to, you know, me and YouTube and education and just technology, it's morphed into a multi-billion-dollar industry.
It's crazy.
There was never million-dollar producers.
Right.
That's a newer thing. You know, I talked to Rob Wensley and he's like, Jerry, there's people doing $1 million a month. There's some doing $1 million a month.
Yep.
So what we've done is we've taken this model, we've dialed it in so well with the data and the KPIs and the steps, right? And then the technology where it can now become a multi-million-dollar business for you. You know, listening to this right now, it can be that.
It really can.
It never was that.
It's funny you say the model because when I jumped into wholesaling, I did not get into wholesaling to actually get into real estate.
Yeah.
I didn't.
If you think about it, wholesaling isn't really real estate.
It's not.
And that's a mistake a lot of people made. I thought that for years. I thought it was real estate. It's not real estate. Not if you really break it down. It's sales and marketing.
It's a sales and marketing.
Got nothing. The widget happens to be a house.
Yes.
But it's just a sales and marketing funnel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why you did so well. Because you
yeah.
took sound principles that you had already learned.
Yep.
And you just changed the widget.
Yep.
To
That
a
was
house.
it. I had never flipped a house. I had never been a landlord.
You probably didn't even know how to comp that well. It wasn't about that.
I
It was
didn't
about
know what
relationships.
I literally didn't know what ARV meant. I didn't know what a crawl space, carport, none of that was.
Estimating repairs, but you don't need any of that.
No, and I didn't worry about any of that.
And that's why you're successful,
Yeah.
though.
So for 4 months straight, I just talked to homeowners, made offers, and I was getting contracts. Some of them were bad, some of them were good, but I was okay with all of that. You do a 100 offer challenge. First time I've ever heard about this, and this is genius. And it's literally that simple because you have a student that his first 10 deals literally just came from him blasting out a ton of offers.
Texting, not even calling.
From for sale by owners?
On Zillow.
On Zillow.
So he'd go on Zillow for sale by owner. He would look at the Zestimate value that Zillow gives it. I need to get this low enough to wholesale it. So I'm going to go in at 40% of that number. That was it. No analysis, no formula, no ARV times 70%, less repairs, less, none of that.
KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
He just took 40%, said that's pretty low. Texted, because the phone number's on there, right? Texted the owner and said, here's my offer. And that's how he did his first 10 deals.
First 10 deals. What he did is he took action. He made offers. You will not get a deal in this industry. It's impossible to get a deal in this industry without having some form of communication with a homeowner and making an offer. A deal doesn't exist unless that happens.
Now, I asked him, why didn't you pick up the phone? He's like, I was afraid to talk to people. The point of that story is we all overcomplicate this. And here's why. People want to overcomplicate it because if it's somewhat complicated, then I have a reason not to do it. Because I got to learn more before I can do it.
Yeah.
So you're lying to yourself that you need to learn something. No, you don't. You don't need to learn very much.
No.
There's some fundamentals maybe, but that's it. In fact, if you think about it, I have my sales process is very much like yours. I don't really care about ARV, and I don't really care about repairs, and I don't really care about percentages. I don't care about any of that. All I know is, can I build trust? If I can build trust, then I'm going to anchor low. And I'm going to say to them, in the perfect world, I'd be around 100,000. They just said they wanted 240.
Yep.
In the perfect world, I'd be around 100,000. It's going to solicit a no. I have trust, so I can actually do that. If I don't have trust, they're going to chase me off the porch with a shotgun, right?
Yep, they're gonna chase you or hang up.
They're going to be offended.
And the conversation ends.
Right. But if I build trust,
yes,
I call it BRT, build relationship of trust. If you do that right, you low anchor. The number doesn't have to be accurate, just low enough.
Yes.
Just low enough.
Yep.
They're going to say no, and then you're going to say, well, how close to that can you get? And then you're going to see if there's motivation. And the way you'll know is they're going to come down like a rock. And now it doesn't mean the number they come down to is a deal yet, but now you're like, okay, they're clearly motivated. Now maybe I should go to step 2 and we'll do a little more digging.
Yep.
We'll figure out how the roof is, whatever.
Yep.
But I don't need to ask about the roof. I don't need to really get into some of those details unless I first identified if there's motivation in the first place.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Identify that.
Yeah.
And that's, by the way, that's 95% of your conversations is, are they even motivated? Let's figure that out. And then we can go to some analysis.
Yeah. So you've been in the education space 15 plus
15 years. Yeah.
15 years.
16 years.
16 years. You have helped countless people get into this industry. And this industry is, would you say, probably the most entry level to getting into the real estate space?
Wholesaling used to be a stepping stone into other real estate.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, no money. I got nothing. I'll start with 0. I'll do some wholesaling.
Yeah.
But that's not the end game. The end game is I'm going to own rentals or I'm going to fix and flip or commercial, whatever. And what I've seen happen in the past 5 years is wholesaling morph, not be a stepping stone, but be the thing.
The thing.
The thing.
Yes.
Meaning now you're doing volume, you're doing margin, bigger deals, more of them.
Yep.
And so that's been pretty exciting to see that transformation.
Yeah.
Where people like you guys, you're not transitioning into other things. You're just building the wholesale model even better.
Yeah.
And bigger.
Since I've been in the industry, and now we just sold our Raleigh office. I've never made less net, not gross. I've never made less than $1.5 million.
In your wholesale business.
And that's a net number.
Yeah.
So, like, there's a real model here to make real money. I said in the beginning, like, I didn't get into wholesaling to get into real estate. But after 18 months of dishing all these deals out, and you got to pay taxes. Okay? And we were like, wait a second. Like, $100,000 assignment fee is awesome. It might be cooler to keep that house.
Yeah.
So you will eventually, and we eventually ended up flipping homes, keeping the home runs.
Yeah.
Like
That's what I teach.
because we've never flipped homes where like, holy cow, we morally, ethically, and legally stole this home.
Yeah.
We cannot mess this flip up. So for almost 2 years straight, we were flipping homes all virtually, 100% virtually. We would pick the home up in a virtual market. We would buy the home in a virtual market, never go out to it. We would have a inspector go out. We would get a contractor all virtually, and we would flip the home 100% virtually. And we would do about one of those a month.
Yeah.
And every home we flipped virtually, and we kept our ARVs at right around 450,000 and under. Like, we had our sweet spot. Yeah. We narrowed in what we were calling. We knew equity of who we were calling. Like, we had our model pretty dialed in. But we never made under $100,000 flipping homes that I never went out to. Like, it still blows my mind.
But you know what, Eric? While you're doing that and your other real estate strategies, you haven't lost sight of your fast money, which is wholesaling.
Wholesaling.
And this is where people get all screwed up, right?
Yep.
Is you've got to have that cash coming in.
Yes.
I call it a printing press. You've got to have your printing press, your golden goose, and not lose sight of that.
Yep.
So you're diverting some of your energy, some of your money, some of your strategy to maybe fix and flip, or maybe start to hold some things. But you're never going to lose sight of what's paying the bills, and bringing the money in, and that's a wholesale business.
Yeah.
The problem is, and this is where a lot of people, miss the boat here, is wholesaling is a transactional business. I tell people every deal you do, you're out of business because you don't make money until you do another deal.
Yep.
So it's definitely a model that's an active income. You're taxed at the highest rate. The cheat code, though, is to dial in processes, get a good team, use technology, and you remove yourself from the operation and get in the owner's box. Now it sort of becomes a residual. It's not like cash flow like a rental, but it sort of is, because you're now creating all this cash without doing the thing on the down in the weeds.
Yep.
That's the way that you move wholesale into residual income, is you build out a really good business model doing it.
Yeah.
But that's bringing the cash in, take that cash, reinvest it into other things. Those other things are going to start to build the long-term wealth.
Yeah.
And that's a smart way to look at it, I think.
But you still today, you're still doing wholesale deals.
I have to, because I need that fast cash production, right? So probably 75% of all our transactions are wholesale transactions. But I'm very much like what you said. I look at it like this. I use the baseball analogy. A deal comes in. I classify it as either a single, double, triple, home run, or grand slam. The singles, doubles, and triples, I wholesale those. Because there's another buy and hold or flipper that operates their business on skinny margins.
Yep.
They're okay to spend 40 on a rehab to make 25 on a flip.
And there's thousands of those people.
And there's a new one every minute.
Yes.
I'm not okay to do that.
Yes.
So I'll wholesale that to that guy. I'll make the 20, 25, wholesaling it. But when that win comes in and it's a six-figure deal, I've got a deal right now where we bought it for 5, we put 100 into it, spent the 100 in 30 days, so it was a cosmetic flip, all in for 6, sold it for 805, net 150, and it was a 30-day rehab. It was an easy rehab. That I'm keeping. If that was a skinny deal, I would wholesale it. I would not keep that deal.
Yeah.
Because I'm tying up money, I'm tying up bandwidth, energy, team, resources. That better be a win if I'm going to go for a slower win. Like I call that medium speed money is a flip. Yeah. You might have to wait 6 months to get paid, right? So then I kind of put everything through that lens. Now, I like to have some big wins. Like I like to have a multi-million-dollar deal, a couple of those going on. Maybe those are 18 months deals or whatever. And then I like software, so I have my own software. You've got like a cold calling company.
Yeah.
That's all creating residual income. So the residual doesn't have to be rentals. I personally hate rentals.
I do too.
I hate them.
I don't want to be a landlord.
That's not the only way. I would rather do private money lending.
Got it.
For residual, for passive income.
Yeah.
Now, I have a tax problem still with that because it's still tax high versus owning property. You get the depreciating asset. So there is a place for that. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying, like, think about what you're doing. How do you create that instant cash, the little bit slower cash, and then the long-term passive trickle money, mailbox money?
Yep.
And if you've got that all, leveled out pretty well, where the majority of it is coming in monthly, then you're never going to get in trouble.
Nope.
You're never going to go bankrupt. You're never going to run out of money. because you're creating that fast cash all the time. And that's
Yeah,
wholesaling.
I agree.
There's nothing that creates faster cash than wholesaling.
It's quick.
You get a deal, it closes in 2 weeks, and you got 20 grand. Like,
Literally.
dude,
Yeah.
what other thing can you do where you make that much money that fast than wholesaling?
I haven't found one. Literally. Like, and the rips are sizable.
They're big rips.
They're big rips. And so do you do deals back when you first started again, 20 years ago, you were in Detroit, Michigan, and you would just do deals in Detroit, Michigan?
Yeah, my backyard market, I knew every single street. Yeah, I was very local. Now so I went from that. We actually loaded up our 6 kids at the time in an RV, and we traveled the country for a year in an RV, and I left my backyard market. At the time, I was not doing virtual. I was just doing Detroit. And it took us 2 years, my wife and I, to plan this trip. And I was scared out of my mind because I'm leaving my market. But it was nuts. That year in the RV, I hardly worked. I worked a little, but hardly. I made more money that year than any year previously because I got out of the way. I was the bottleneck. Everything had to come through me. I was making all the decisions. And it was that moment in time where I learned, I don't have to be here. I don't have to see the thing.
That's when you picked up a phone.
That's when I went virtual and realized all of this can be done virtually.
I love it.
All of it can be done virtually.
And that happened for you when?
2013.
2013.
Was when we left in the RV. We left Detroit. I never went back. And to this day, I still transact like crazy in Detroit.
Do you really?
Yeah, virtually.
Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah.
So
flips and wholesales and because I knew that market so well and I don't have to be there.
I love
now,
it.
I have good boots on the ground. I have a team there.
Yeah, yeah.
So I can pick up the phone and have someone looking at a property in 10 minutes in Detroit.
Yep.
You know, virtual doesn't mean that you don't have a presence in the market.
Yeah.
You know, and when I say virtual, I'm not the nationwide virtual. That's a tougher model.
Yeah, I don't ever recommend that.
But I'm in 6 or 7 core markets,
Yep.
team on the ground, marketing in that area. Yeah. And what I have done though, Eric, is I do believe today in appointment and going on appointment.
Yeah.
Now, I would consider myself virtual, but in the market, we're not closing on the phone so much.
Okay.
We're going on appointment. And the only reason why is because the market's gotten so competitive, and there's guys here in Phoenix, you guys, on the phones closing deals.
Yeah.
And one way to create a competitive advantage is to go on appointment.
Instant credibility.
Oh my gosh.
And I know that. Listen, I know that. I'm smart enough to know if you're looking at me in the eyes,
I'm going to win every time.
You're going to win.
I'm going to win every time.
I know that.
But you're able to scale
Yes.
because you can't scale on appointment as well.
I can only sit in front of so many people and look at so many eyeballs.
Right. So
I can talk to a ton of people.
So you'll win in that regard.
Yes.
But for a lot of people, like I tell them, if you want to beat out the virtual guys, go on appointment. If you can identify motivation, don't go on, identify motivation, go on appointment. And they might have 5 contracts. I've done this. There's 5 contracts out on the table, and I walk out of there with the deal. And I'm not paying more.
Yeah.
But I was able to make a connection and throw them all under the bus.
10 times out of 10.
Every time.
I believe that.
Every time. So it's one way that you can create a competitive advantage in today's marketplace.
Yep.
Because think about it. These virtual wholesalers, since they're not seeing it, they have to have a very loose contract with contingencies and no earnest money or low earnest money. Whereas if we walk in there and we got eyes on it and we know our market, I can come in there hot and heavy, I call it. I can put down big earnest money. I can waive inspection.
Yep.
And now on terms of the contract, I can beat out everybody else.
Yep.
And get it 20, 30,000 lower.
I agree. 100%.
If you're looking for a reliable cold calling service for your real estate business, look no further. I'm Jerry Norton, and I want to introduce you to Run It Remote, the #1 cold calling agency in the nation, and here's why. First of all, unlike other agencies, Run It Remote was founded by wholesalers and created for wholesalers. We understand your business better than anyone. That means all of the training and scripts are designed to deliver you high-quality prospects that want to sell their properties, but that's not all. You see, most cold calling services will get a lead and then push it over to you. That's not how we do it at Run It Remote. We understand that your time is valuable, and that means you need to make sure that you're talking to the most qualified leads possible. Time is money, and for that reason, at Run It Remote, every lead goes through our quality assurance process before it ever reaches your CRM. Let Run It Remote be your cold calling solution to deliver you quality, motivated seller leads. Whether you're just getting started or scaling to the next level, Our team will provide the perfect fit for you and your goals. Click Getting Started below, and I can't wait to hear all about your success.
I want to go back to the 100 offer challenge.
Yes.
I've heard, and I don't know if this statistic is true or not, but I believe it, is that 95% of people that jump into the wholesale model quit before their first deal, right? It's a super high number, but
I would agree with that. I would say 90 to 95%.
Quit.
Yep. And then what I would say too, to take that step further, let's say it's not even that high. Let's say it's 80%, whatever. It's pretty high.
It's high.
Let's take now the ones that make it and
Yep.
become full-time wholesalers.
Yep.
Meaning they don't have another job. Their sole income is that. Out of that group, I would say 80% of them never move past solo operator. And they cap out at about $250 a year. That's
Okay.
most our industry.
Okay.
Now, you guys are the exception, and you guys teach people how to be the exception.
Yep.
But most your wholesalers run around and do 3 to 5 contracts. They don't really have a team. They don't really have marketing. They don't really have processes. They're just hustlers, and they make about $200 to $250 a year. That's most of our industry.
That's good. A quarter
It's
of
good
$1
money.
million
Oh, yeah, it's good money.
is good money.
It's
for
good money.
somebody.
But you replace your 8 hours a day for 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
So it's the old analogy, like, why work for someone for 8 hours when you can work for yourself for 12?
Yeah.
That's that guy.
Yep.
And they're not building anything.
Right.
They're just working hard.
Yep.
They go on vacation, no money comes in.
No money.
That's not a real business.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a self-employed. You're self-employed.
100%.
So very few transition into a real business.
Right.
Where they move out of the operator and move into the owner.
Yep. From a
So just
solopreneur
for-
to
Yeah.
not an entrepreneur, but yeah.
But a real business.
Yeah, real business.
Yeah. So anyway, let's go back to before that.
The
Most people
100
don't even get to the first deal.
Right. Explain your 100 offer challenge.
Yeah. So it has to be a bona fide offer. It can be a verbal
Not we can offer you between 100 and 130,000.
or a cold call where, hey, are you interested in selling? No, you're not. Well, that counts as a call. No,
All
no,
right.
no. So it has to be a warm lead.
Okay.
So someone that said, yes, I want
I'll
to
sell my
sell.
house.
You put a number in front of them.
Okay.
Okay. If you do that 5 times a day, 5 days a week, that's 25 in a week. That's 100 in a month. My promise is you will get a deal.
I so believe that,
We'll
Jerry.
get a deal.
But majority of the people out there will give up at whatever number offered. Most are not going to make it to 100
So you're in the
offers.
coaching space. So am I. I'll have a coaching student say to me, it doesn't work. Like wholesaling, it doesn't work. And I'll say, tell me why it doesn't work. Well, because there's no way in my market, somehow their market's different.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way in my market that sellers or agents or whatever are going to accept that low offer. They won't, it doesn't work. And instantly in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, your sample size is probably like 5 calls or
Right.
10
Yeah.
or 20. And I'll say to them, when you've done it 1,000 times, then you have the right to say that. You don't have the right to say that.
Yep.
You haven't done the work.
Yep.
And I know you haven't done the work because if you did the work, you wouldn't be saying this right now.
Yep.
If you did it 100 times, you would be saying to me, Jerry, I got my first deal, is what you'd be
100%.
saying.
Yeah.
You haven't done it.
Yeah.
And if they say, yeah, I've done it, no, you haven't. Just because you started 6 months ago or a year ago doesn't mean you've done it.
Yeah, you haven't done it.
You're watching YouTube videos or you're messing with your CRM
Yep.
or you're printing business cards or whatever you're
not
doing.
making offers.
You're not making offers.
It's the only thing that's going to get you a deal.
Nothing matters but that.
Nothing.
In fact, everything up until putting a number in front of an agent or a seller, none of it counts.
None of it counts.
You're not actually doing the thing until you put an offer in front of somebody.
I love it.
The analysis and everything else is busy work.
Yeah.
You're telling yourself you're busy. You're telling yourself you're doing the business, but you're not doing the
You're
business.
not doing it. We built our whole company off cold calling.
Yeah.
Literally, it was our number one lead source. We did other leads, but there's not gun to my head. Nobody could tell me cold calling is going to outperform, at least in our office, any other lead source. And I had it.
Which is amazing because the word on the street is like cold calling's dead and all this stuff.
Oh,
And
God.
just because you can't.
Your sales process is dead.
Right. Exactly.
I know if they say, hey, I want to sell my house, send them over. That's it. Let's go. How many of those can we get?
People aren't identifying pain. They're not building it. They're not bridging a gap. They're
Yeah.
not showing how they can solve that problem. And that's why it's breaking down.
Yep, I agree. So in most markets outside of like your major markets, like here in Maricopa County, Phoenix, Scottsdale, the numbers are going to be a little skewed. But most markets, I know 40 leads or under 100% gets a contract. It will get you a contract. And there's nothing anybody else can tell me because we were in at one point 9 states. Now we honed in on like our top 3 and that's when we really started getting consistent, bigger numbers. But
so you're saying you can get a contract in 40 offers.
But those are people, Jerry, that have spent 3 to 5 minutes with a cold caller in another country.
They're qualified.
Yeah, I mean,
They're
that's
qualified.
different than, you know what I mean?
But here's the thing. Getting a qualified lead is easy.
It's easy.
You guys have a cold call service for $6 an hour. You put a cold caller on there. They're going to give you warm leads.
Yep.
You just got to show up now.
That's it. And call them or get to the house. Like,
and here's the thing too, like you guys do a really, really good sale process. But the thing about the sales process is that's going to allow you to perform better and close more deals.
yes.
But in all honesty, if you strip it all out and you've got no sales skills, nothing, but you do the calls, you're going to get deals because here's the thing. We're trying to identify a motivated seller. And a motivated seller, a lot of it is just you're at the right place at the right time. They need a solution right now and you happen to be there and you're good. So you could have the most horrible sales process and still get contracts. Now, we don't want to run a business like that. We want to improve so we can close better and more. But my point just is like, stop overcomplicating it. Pick up the freaking phone and then build as you go. Learn and get better as you go.
Yep. Fail forward.
Yeah.
Fail forward. It's all about time and circumstances. You're going to get in front of somebody at the right time in the right circumstances, no matter if you can't even put a sentence together. If the number makes sense, they're going to say, I will sell you my house. It 100% of the time will happen. The only reason this model does not work is if you give up. And you can't make offers if you don't work it. I will say this has been one of, if not my favorite podcasts that I've done because it's 100% facts what we are talking about right now. I think the audience is going to get super valuable information here. You're hearing from a guy 20 years ago that was literally not peeking in windows, but seeing for sale.
I was peeking in windows.
For sale by owners where you could barely see the number. Yeah. Knocking on a door to 9 of his rentals to find out who the landlord was that bought these houses, like just being resourceful. You know why? Because the pain got great enough for Jerry where he knew he wanted to change. Period. End of story. Where his feet were at that day, having kids, having wife. And y'all don't know, but Jerry went from 2 kids to now 10 kids.
10 kids.
He's got 10 kids. Jerry has to be resourceful to take care of his family. His wife and kids are absolutely amazing. They literally live a life by design. They do. And that's true freedom. And it all started with him driving for dollars, they call it, where really he was driving for a deal. That's what he was doing. He was driving, looking for a deal where he saw some sort of distress. And there's a ton of those houses out there. If Jerry can do it, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. It's, do you have the will and the drive to get out of the situation that you're in right now? Because not every day is going to be easy. He said, he's 20 years into getting knocked down, but getting back up. So moral of the story is this is a model that can be life-changing. It's changed his life. It's changed my life. It can change your life. And Jerry, man, I thoroughly enjoyed sitting here talking to you. Yeah. And I've been looking forward to you coming to Arizona. Yeah. I really have. I'd love to get out to Puerto Rico and just whack iguanas with you for a couple days. It'd be absolutely amazing. But please go give for any of you out there that this is the first time hearing about Jerry Norton, go give him an absolute follow. You will not be disappointed. This guy has more knowledge, experience, wins, and obstacles that he's been overcome. Not many guys that I know that's done what this guy has done. Not only is he doing wholesale deals, he's doing deals in Puerto Rico. I mean, the guy is all over the place. So if anything you want to leave the audience with?
No, I just would say thank you, Eric. And I love what you're doing for the industry where you're really showing people how to do this. It's not just theory, it's application. Yeah. Getting on the phone, showing people that you can do this. And this is life-changing. This is literally life-changing. You can start from nothing and very quickly in 30 days, if you do what we're talking about here,
Yep.
have deals and start making money and change your life.
Yep, you
So
can.
believe that. If more than anything, Eric, I hope people who watch this, if they were lacking some confidence, I hope now they can walk away from this and say, look, if those two knuckleheads can do this, so can I.
Literally.